What's going on, you guys? I'm back at it again, torturing myself with the vinyl. I decided not to give up, so I went on Amazon again and I purchased some more vinyl. This is not the same vinyl that I used before. This is actually made by like Vivid or something like that. It was only $23 for 3 rolls, 5 foot by 1 foot. So a little bit of a better deal than the 3M stuff that I used last time. And not only that, but this vinyl, it looks exactly the same. It's got a little bit of texture to it, but not much. Not as much as the 3M, but it is a little bit thinner than the 3M, and it is much easier to work with due to that as well. It definitely wants to flex more. It wants to pull more a little bit before it wants to break. I've already completed the driver's side ring, and as you can see, I took the ring off the car this time. I figured stop working harder, work smarter. The grill, I'm probably going to end up leaving on the car though and figure out how I'll get that done. But nevertheless, it actually came out decent for the driver's side, so now I'm going to do the passenger side, but I'm going to do a little, I guess, speed time lapse through it. Maybe little pauses here and there just to explain what I'm doing. But for starters, the only thing I've changed up for supplies with this is obviously a kid sled. And the only other thing I recommend, especially if you put yourself through this before like I have, is some source of nicotine. And I'm going with the old trusty vape here tonight. Yes, I do vape. I do not vape for the sake of vaping. I am a previous smoker, so this was a way out of the smelly and nasty world of cigarettes. And eventually I'll probably end up stop vaping at some point in the future, but for now, I mean, some of these things just taste too good. So one quick thing I want to mention before I start here that you're going to either see me do or it might be a little off camera. One thing I'm going to do for starters is after I peel the backing off of my vinyl, I'm actually going to hit the vinyl with the heat gun a little bit, just distribute heat all throughout the vinyl before I go ahead and lay it over here. It does make laying it on there initially a little bit easier, and I don't quite remember how I started with the driver's side headlight. I think I just got like a good, nice, smooth finish on one side, and then I just kind of took it from there. And this time lapse is probably going to be sort of lengthy because this does take time. The one thing I definitely learned from last time is you've got to have patience with this stuff. You have to, once you start getting to little areas where the vinyl wants to kind of crinkle on you, especially when you're getting towards the very end, you just have to like apply a little bit of heat, lift up, and just slowly press it in and just keep working the vinyl the way you want it. It will get there. There are some tiny imperfections in my driver's side one, like if a vinyl buff or a professional would go up to it, they'd be like, oh yeah, this is garbage. You can see like there's a little crinkle right here or whatever. But for me, for a novice, and this only being my second attempt at this, I think it came out pretty good, and I'm going to leave it the way it is. Hopefully it lasts for a little while. One other quick thing really fast is when you're trying to apply a little bit of heat to get some wrinkles out as you're working your way around, be sure that you're not pulling up sections that you've already made pretty perfect while you're doing that. Try to keep an eye on them to either not pull them up all the way because you'll end up actually stretching the vinyl over here and making a little overlap and a crinkle right there. So definitely keep an eye on that, or what I recommend is like putting your, as soon as you see it come up, just put your thumb down on it and then work your vinyl that you're working with. thing that I just encountered that I wanted to go over as well is you might find yourself getting little air pockets. What I recommend that I found works, at least for me, is if it's really small or even if it's kind of big, all you need to do, and what I usually do is I'll go for this inner edge so I don't pull up this and end up ruining anything closer up to here. It's actually much easier from here, is I'll start pushing on it and I'll move it as close as I can to that edge, and then I'll use my finger in here to just kind of push up a little bit and then quickly just smooth the air bubble out so it can escape. Now I want you guys to kind of pay attention to what I'm about to do here. So what I've done is I stuck the vinyl down to here, hopefully it holds. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply some heat. I might even use my foot. Yeah, I got my trusty socks on, don't worry about that. I'm going to apply some heat. Since I don't have a second person, I'm going to apply some heat, stretch the vinyl out, and get it nice and flat and contoured. I think I'm gonna have to drop a patent on that move. Alright, so what I went ahead and did there was I applied a little bit of heat to the edges and pushed and pulled them around the back just to get them nice and tight and kind of get everything adhering to the back a little bit. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull these corners up and I'm going to trim them out, and then I'll use a little bit of heat to stick the vinyl back down. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around all of the clips and I'm going to trim the vinyl from around those as well. And then following that, I'm going to trace about a 1/4 inch inside right here using my razor blade. And I'm going to go around trying to maintain that 1/4 inch distance. And then all I have to do, and the last step is super easy, is apply some heat and then just keep working my way around like I did the outside and pushing that vinyl around. Flip it over, mash it down, make sure it's nice and sealed up a little bit. It is going to be fairly ugly on the backside, but not too worried about that. You're not going to see it anyways. Alright, so I finished up patting the vinyl down on the back and cut out the areas for the clips. This is all the excess that I have on the inside. Now what I'm going to do, like I said, is I'm going to trace this out, and then I'm going to pull the vinyl in and tuck from the other side. And really what you're doing here is you're just trying to, if you can, make these connect, because it'll protect it from weather a little bit better. I'm not expecting these to last forever. I just wanted to do something on my own and, you know, show a little pride in my own work, so to speak. It's definitely not perfect still, but for me, it'll work. And honestly, I think it looks just fine. So there you have it. That's our finished product. I might go over it a little bit with some heat and just rub out a little bit of areas if I can. But for the most part, it actually came out okay. I mean, I can see some small air bubbles here and there, maybe some really small creases here and there, but I'm not too worried about it. With the air bubbles, I mean, you can poke like a little tiny hole to relieve that air as well. Just be really, really, really careful because that chrome is going to stick out like a sore thumb if you make that hole too big. Alright, so I'm on the grill section now. I'm doing the top part, and what I went ahead and did was measured out a piece of vinyl, including the curve. Make sure you do that when you're measuring your vinyl out. Make sure you're pushing it up against this curve to make sure you're going to have enough to come around that edge. Don't just draw yourself a straight line across and assume it's going to fit. Make sure you take those curves into consideration when you're doing this. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim the bottom part down here, get that trimmed out, and then tuck the vinyl around the back with the heat gun and everything. Then what I'm going to do is work on the top part, and once I have the top part pretty set, I'll close the hood down, and then I'll just use my razor blade to cut along the outer edge of it, and then use my my little paddle thing over there to push the vinyl into the crack as much as I can. Hopefully this comes out good. If I don't see the bottom part working out all that great, I might just abandon ship, but I'm still gonna try. Alright, there it is, all done. I'll tell you what, this wasn't as big of a pain as it was as the last time. I even redid the badge up there in the front as well, just because I found the material so much easier to work with. So that came out a little bit better as well. So I'm going to zoom in on this side over here, let you guys get a decent look. As you can see, it doesn't look too terrible, not too shabby. There's the grill. Sorry about my tripod creaking. There we go. Badge. The rest of it, and we got our other headlight over there. So all in all, I mean, it came out pretty good. For the grill actually wasn't that hard. I was really surprised. I did have to break it down into two sections. I'll try to show you what I mean. Let's see, find a good spot. That should work. Alright, so this kind of gives a pretty decent example of what I'm talking about with the breaking it down into two pieces. So it's really hard to get the vinyl to stretch around this curve and go under as well. So what I ended up doing was I did the bottom side and then I cut it, like pretty much took my razor and cut downwards like that, and then put everything nice and flush, and you can kind of see a little bit of that line right around here from where the vinyl was folded up from the bottom, but it's just a hair. And then what I did was I did the top separately and did that and wrapped it underneath. So much easier to do it that way. It came out really, really good. Now as for the bottom, let me see if I can find, okay, here we go. For the bottom, I actually ended up doing this in like little strips. So I cut some little strips and worked my way from one end to the other. And you can kind of see on camera there where two of the pieces of vinyl are kind of overlapping each other. But that's really only because of how the light is reflecting and how the lens is picking it up, because just looking at it in person from that little bit of distance, you can't see it at all. Not unless you're like getting way up in there and really, really looking hard at it. Like I can't see this one. Yeah, I mean it looks like it's all one piece. So finally won. I won the vinyl battle with the Mini. It looks great. It looks dope. Tell me what you guys think in the comment section. And stick around for the next video. If you guys haven't subscribed, please subscribe. The next video is going to show what the next big mod is for the Mini. So stick around.